Shrutismritipuranam Valayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavapadam Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Muktibheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dakshinamurtaye Namah Sadashivasamabhidhamam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Paramparām Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Veeryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we just started verse number 23. Verse number 22 talks about how a wise person should live in this world. So should not be bothered about whatever is happening around. And then not also be obsessed over what one wears and then how one looks. Not give excessive importance to one's physical appearance. So the verse said, Rathya Charpata Virachita Kanthaha Punya Punya Vivarjita Panthaha. So with the least care about what one is wearing, as long as it serves its purpose. The clothes serve their purpose. Punya Punya Vivarjita Panthaha. And then at a religious level also, one is not bothered about Punya and Papa. So this is for a wise person. So for a person who is not fully wise, then one should be bothered about Punya and Papa. Because avoid actions that would incur Papa and accumulate Punya for the sake of Chitta Shuddhi, not for anything else. So here it is said in the sense of not being focused on gaining Punya, which would translate into future experiences. So a wise man does not care about that because one does not want to come back again. So wants to finish the job once and for all, here and now. And after this lifetime, not come back. So why should I not come back? That also we saw in the previous verse. Because even the process of taking birth is so painful. So you have to go through so much pain. So during the gestation period, which fortunately we forget. So, but still it is something that is not very pleasant. And even coming out of the womb is painful. And then there is a lot of pain that one endures even during the course of one's life. So hardly there is anyone who has perfect health. There is no human being who has perfect health. If at all there is, it is only for a very short duration. Otherwise, we just manage. And we learn to ignore, that's all. But still the pain is there. So for all these reasons, one does not want to be born again and again. So that is why in this verse he says one does not care for Punya or Papa. In fact, tries to avoid both Punya and Papa. Punya in terms of experiences. And then Yogi Yoga Niyojita Chittaha. So this yogi who is in perfect uh, knowledge of oneself. So reveling in the knowledge of oneself. So yogi, yoga niyojita chitta, one whose mind is always dwelling on the absolute, always has it at the back of one's mind. Never goes away from one's thought process. Ramate balon mattava deva. And then wanders like a child or a madman. So why it is said like that? That also we saw in the last class. Without without worrying about the future or without worrying about the past, thinking about the past. So a child just lives in the present. But you can never live as a child all the time. Everyone grows up. Inevitably, we grow up. And then that's where all the problems start. So here, that is only in terms of not worrying unnecessarily, like a bala or a child or a madman. Then we just started verse number 23. So these examples are given so that they inspire us. So it is necessary to understand why these examples are given. So saying like one should wander like a madman should not be a deterrent. So should not be something that one doesn't want. So only from a certain angle. So in terms of, because the mad person also doesn't worry. They live in their own world and they are totally at peace with themselves, apparently. So they look like they're just completely happy with whoever they are. So only from that standpoint, the example holds good. So we don't need to become mad or be a child. Then verse number 23, we just started it. Kastvam koham kuta ayataha kame janani ko me tataha iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram vishvam tyaktva swapna vicharam kastvam koham kuta ayataha kame janani ko me tataha iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram vishvam tyaktva. This verse is attributed to, I think, someone called Yogananda. Yeah, this verse is attributed to a disciple called Yogananda. So this person says, spend as much time as possible in contemplating on the truth of one's existence, on the inquiry, who am I? So which is what Ramana Maharshi is famous for. So any problem anyone took to him, so his stock answer was, you first find out who you are and then the problem will resolve itself. It will vanish. Because the fundamental problem is I am confused about who I am. So I think I have a very good understanding about who I am. That I'm a man, I'm a woman, or I'm so and so, I'm this person's spouse. I'm this person's son or daughter, and I'm doing such a job, and I'm this kid's mother or father. So if I describe myself like this, then normal human being thinks that they have a complete understanding of themselves. But the Shastra says these are just roles that one play. This is just a very limited or a very short-sighted understanding of oneself. We don't dismiss it, but it is very short-sighted. So for I'm not a father all the time, or mother all the time, or son all the time, or daughter all the time. The way I describe my profession also, that changes very fast. So in and through all of this, what is the connecting factor which makes me own up all these descriptions about myself? So this verse asks us to ponder about what is the connecting thread. Who are you? Kaha tvam. So in the sense, if there is someone in front of me, if I just take that person at face value in terms of how they appear or what I know about that person, then try to extend it a little more, thinking whether this is all the person is. Is there a constant entity that is running through that person all the time, throughout the person's life? So in terms of examining myself too, kaha aham, who am I? Who are you? Who am I? So this, if I describe myself in terms of my body, this body changes every moment, changes very rapidly. So when I was 10 years old, I was very different. Then 20 years, appearance changed. 30, 40, 50. In fact, it is changing every moment. So we are not the same. The appearance, actually, the body is not the same as it started before this class and as it will be after the class is over. Even though it is not so obvious. But still, that is how it is. And we are just changing at breakneck speed. So, does the appearance of the body define me completely? That is why we have this Panchakosha analysis in the Shastra, dividing the human personality into different layers, where I identify. The first layer I identify, the most physical layer that I identify myself with is the Annamaya, the physical appearance that is a modification of the food that I have consumed. So the physical body is nourished by food and then it grows on food. So that is at the Annamaya level. And then Pranamaya at the level of the physiological functions, like breathing, inhalation, exhalation, and then circulation, digestion, and excretion, throwing out. So these are the physiological functions with which I identify myself. So I am digesting. So I am breathing. Blood is circulating in my body. And then there is a level of identification with the mind, emotions, thoughts, so desires, and various emotional, various feelings. And then anger, hatred, fear, all of that. So I'm angry. I don't like this person. I have this fear. So all of this happens at the mind, level of the mind, and then I identify with it. That is the key here. So identifying with each of these layers. All the time I'm identified with one or more of these layers. And then identified with my intellect, the knowledge I have. And identified with the pleasure I enjoy, joy I get, anandamaya. So I had this much fun, so much fun. I enjoyed so much. So the I gets identified with that pleasure that one has got. So the Shastra says that these are all a very limited understanding of oneself. There is something which is responsible for allowing you to identify with all these layers. So there is that I, which goes and connects with the body, physical body. Why do I say that the I connects with the physical body? Because it is objectified by me. See, when I see something outside, I see you. And then I don't take yourself to be me. I don't say that I have become you. I see the mobile or computer in front of me. So the computer doesn't become me. So it is outside of me, it is separate from me. And I see so many things in the world. And I don't take them to be me. But when I come to myself, I see my body. The person who is seeing it is different from the body. Correct? The eyes are seeing it, but the eyes also function for the person behind who for whom the eyes serve their purpose. So I see my body just like I see everything else, but I take my body to be me. That is where the fundamental problem is. So here in this verse, he talks about inquiring into this fundamental mistake that everyone commits. And then this I sometimes associates with the people who are very close to us. So my children, my parents, my spouse, that is where the attachment starts. Then the question will be, is it not natural? Is it not necessary to have this? The Shastra says you will function much better if you don't have that. In fact, you are really suffering because you have that attachment. You will still be connected to that person. You will have all the love and care for the person. But the unnecessary attachment will not be there. When one understands that one who is experiencing all of this is different from the identificate, what one identifies with. So even I have various thoughts running in my mind, like emotions, likes and dislikes. If I just let them be, then there is no problem. But I identify with those likes, then likes crystallize into desire. And then I want to somehow fulfill that desire. So when I inquire, then all what I do, I will be able to create a space between myself and what is happening outside, whether it is in terms of my body, whether it is in terms of my mind, or whether it is in terms of my intellect. I will be able to create that space and then be more objective. So that's why he says, Yogananda. He says, Kaha Tvam. So inquire into who are you? Who am I? Kaha Aham. Kuta Ayataha. Where did I suddenly spring out of nowhere? Okay, I was born to these parents, but how? Where did I come from? What made me get into these people? Just imagine, just that seed from the father goes into the mother. And then a child is born. And I also came out like that. And then I'm having to, made to go through all these experiences. For what? Why should I go through these experiences? Then one starts understanding karma, and then what is the reason for accumulating karma, and then go that leads one to self-ignorance and then self-knowledge. So that is why it is recommended that I should do this kind of inquiry. Not take everything for granted. So if I take the world for granted, whatever is happening outside, then there won't be any inquiry. There is no necessity. This is how it is. This is how it will be. If I have to suffer, I have to suffer. Then there is no point in trying to do something about it. So that's why inquiry is essential. And then he says, Kame Janani Kome Tataha. How did this person become my mother? And how did this person become my father? Because all relationships, as we have seen in one of the earlier classes, relationships are meant for us to actually finish some unfinished business from the past. That is why we are connected to people. So once we resolve the loose ends or the rough edges, then we experience tremendous freedom. All relationships are like that, meant only for resolution. Any relationship in this world, it's a karmic connection. So one will have to inquire into it and then see why I have to be connected to this person. And if at all there is something that is troubling that I have to resolve, then resolve it. Because we always have some disagreements, trouble with everyone. If it is someone very close, then it means it is more essential to resolve the unfinished business or the settle accounts. So this kind of inquiry helps me settle accounts. Kame Janani. If I have, some people may have issues with their mother. Kame Janani. The way one was raised. That is because we are connected with our mother from before, because that's a very close connection. And father also may have been a very dominating father. And then I may have had a lot of resentment. So then looking into the resentment and then what is the cause of the resentment and trying to overcome that, resolve that. So that gives tremendous freedom. So that is how this inquiry helps. That's what he's trying to say. Iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram vishwam tyaktva sarv swapna vicharam. Iti paribhavaya, in this manner inquire sarvamasaram. Because everything in this world is not, does not require to be given too much importance. Sarvam asaram. And vishwam tyaktva swapna vicharam. In this manner, dismiss the whole world as just a dream. So this is a very powerful example that is used in the Shastra. So that of looking at everything as a dream. Because it is very easy for me to dismiss a dream. So the reason why I'm able to dismiss a dream is, one is, it is very time bound and exists for a very short duration. That is one reason. It is very, very short lived. And then the other reason is when I wake up, then I can completely dismiss it. So that is another reason why I can dismiss a dream. So the Shastra says that whatever I experience in the waking is no different from a dream. It is just like a dream. Why? Same reason. So one reason is that everything is born at a certain time and then it disappears at a certain time. So that is one reason to prove that it is not absolute. Because before it was born, anything was born, then it did not exist in this form. And after it perishes, then also it does not exist in the same form. So it exists in a certain form for a very brief period of time. So even during that time, it keeps changing. It keeps modifying all the time. So there should be something that connects, or that is underlying this superficial reality. So which helps objects in the universe exist for a certain period of time. See, they come out of nowhere and then they are available for a very short duration and then they disappear. So naturally the question arises, where do they originate from, and into which do they disappear? On what do they or what is it that sustains them? So what is it that creates, that helps create? What is it that sustains? And then what is it that happens after it gets destroyed? In the dream also, we use the same logic for dismissing the dream. Because while I'm in a dream, then it is completely real. Because I can, sometimes dreams are pleasurable, joyful. And sometimes it is a nightmare. But the moment I wake up, then I'm able to dismiss it. Because it is not, I mean, I can see that it is not real. It is not, it is just my own imagination. And then they are for a very short duration. So here, the verse says that the waking world also needs to be inquired into and can be dismissed like a dream. And which is what happens for a wise person. See, whatever was important to us earlier, they are not important to us anymore. It is just like a dream. Like when I was a child, then playing with a toy was so important to me. And playing with my friends and then doing certain activities was so important to me. But now when I look at it, I can dismiss it just like a dream. So there is no problem. It is exactly like a dream. It happened somewhere in the past. And it has no reality at the moment. And in the waking also, it is the same thing. So the Shastra says you start thinking on these lines and then reduce the reality you give to the world outside. Because I have taken it to be absolute, that is why I suffer. I suffer because of all that happens around. And I am connected. So I have taken people as real. In the dream also, I take people as real. But when I wake up, I easily dismiss. So with wisdom, you can dismiss or you can ignore what is happening. And be rooted in one's real self. So that I can never escape from. So it will always be there. So how I understand myself is where the trick is. I take my body, mind as real. Then I'm setting up myself for disappointment, setting myself up for sadness, etc., etc. But I take my real self as myself. Then whatever happens to the external is completely irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. So this is where we have to end. In fact, this is the subject matter of the whole of what we call the Mandukya Upanishad. So it is a dream analysis. I mean, how the waking is no different from a dream. And then he gives various reasons also as to how waking is more real than a dream. So objections are raised, and that is also those are also handled. Like for example, one objection is, so we can all have this objection. So one objection is dream is not continuous. See, I have one dream, one night. The next night, I don't start from where I left. It is a completely different dream. But in the waking, it is not like that. So waking, I pick up from exactly where I left. At least I don't start with a fresh slate. So the answer given, yeah, the answer given to this objection, because there is continuity in a waker's life, and then there is no continuity in a dream. So which makes it easier to dismiss a dream. So the answer given is, who is who is really passing the judgment here? So for the waker to conclude that it is real, see, whenever you have an argument, so the judgment has to come from a third party. So you cannot yourself be the judge and jury. So for me, there is continuity. And so I have taken it to be real. So, or I'm entitled to take it as real. But in the dream also, if you ask the person who is dreaming, that person will say that it is extremely real and there is continuity. So as long as you are dreaming, so the dreamer is convinced that it is real, and the waker also is convinced that it is real. So this is where the Shastra has to come in and then say that it is not as real as you are imagining it to be. So reduce the reality that I give to the world outside. So like this, various arguments are given to establish that the waking is also only as good as a dream. So in fact, Lord Krishna talks about it in the Bhagavad Gita. So second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So there is one verse which says, Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagarti Sanyami. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune. So there he says, whatever is night or dream for an ignorant person is like day for a wise person. So a wise person awakes, keeps awake when the other people go to sleep. So that means the wise person keeps awake to the absolute when the other people are focused on just the relative outside. And then for the ignorant people, the relative world is very real. And that appears like a dream for a wise person. See, the way a wise person looks at the world outside is completely out of bounds for an ignorant person. Because the first response is, how can I ignore the world outside? So that is the first question. Because it is so real and I have to deal with it. But the wise person places the reality on the absolute and is able to dismiss whatever is happening in the relative world. Dismiss in the sense not dissociate, but be able to distance oneself. In fact, Lord Krishna says this is the sign of true wisdom. A truly wise person is able to do this. So this is what is indicated in this verse also. Vishwam tyaktva swapna vicharam. Develop the ability to completely withdraw yourself from the world outside. World here includes what is happening to my body mind also. So be an observer, not get involved with what is happening. So if there is a physical ailment, that also one needs to learn to be objective. So it is only at the level of the body, not be bothered too much. In fact, it seems Ramana Maharshi, he had some tumor. So at the fag end of his life. And it was somewhere in the shoulder. So they said it has to be operated upon. So then he said, you operate upon it, but I don't need any anesthesia. So we don't need to be at that level. In fact, that will make us very diffident right at the start. So, but still, it is possible to get to that level by a human being. That is what is seen there. So, if it is possible for me to create the distance between myself and what is, and just be reveling in the knowledge of who I really am. And that truth is all pervasive. That truth is not limited to my body mind. So this is the eventual destination that we are intending to reach. So that is what is indicated. It won't happen overnight. So, but still it has to be indicated. That is what is done in this verse. So Vishwam Tyaktva Swapna Vichara. So just look at whatever is happening in the real world as just a dream. Temporarily, there may be some success, some failure, some joy, some sorrow, some sadness. So let it all just pass like a dream. But still, it does not mean that one needs to become completely emotionless. That is not what is said. But one is just insulating oneself. It is like Teflon coating. So non-stick frying pan. So whatever oil you put in it, it doesn't stick on it. It's very easy to clean. But a regular frying pan, it is difficult to clean because the oil sticks on it. So here also, this knowledge, when one has, nothing sticks on that person. So nothing is allowed to bother this person. So that is what this understanding gives. And verse number 24. We'll read it. Vaimai chanyatraiko Vishnu vyartham kupyasi maya sahishnu sarvasminnapi pashyatmanam sarvatrotsrija bheda jnanam vaimai chanyatraiko Vishnu व्यर्थम कुप्यसि मय्य सहिष्णु सर्वस्मिन्नपि पश्यात्मानं सर्वत्रोत्सृज भेदाज्ञानम् भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते. So here he says, Tvayi mayi cha anyatra. In you, in me, and everywhere else. Ekaha Vishnu. So there is that only reality which is pervading everything. So the reality that keeps me alive is the same reality that keeps other people alive also. So consciousness is the same. Consciousness cannot be differentiated from one person to another. And the same consciousness is outside also, even though we cannot see it. Because that consciousness does not have a medium to express itself. See, whenever we look for life, then it is proved, life is proved, the existence of life is proved by movement. So movement happens because of the presence of some kind of mind. So whether it is any other organism, or it is a bigger creature. But we are not able to appreciate consciousness in inanimate objects like stones and other inanimate objects. That doesn't mean that consciousness is not there. In fact, consciousness is what allows them to exist, but it is not available for expression or available for inference. So the stone doesn't have a mind. So we cannot see consciousness expressing itself there. That doesn't mean it is not there. It is there. Because everything arises out of consciousness, is sustained by consciousness, and then goes back into the same consciousness. So, Tvayi Mayi cha Anyatra Ekaha Vishnu. In you, in me, everywhere there is only one Vishnu. So, Vishnu, generally we understand the word as a god with a certain form. So, like we go to Tirupati or other places, and we think of Vishnu in a certain way. But the real meaning of the word Vishnu means that which is all pervasive. That is the meaning of the word Vishnu, etymological meaning of the word Vishnu. So the God with a certain physical form with four arms and then two legs and then certain appearance, that is only for us to be able to relate to a certain form. Because you cannot have a relationship with consciousness. The mind always wants some form to connect. The mind cannot operate with the formless. Mind always needs a form. See, like for example, you can think about a chair. You can think about a table. You can think about a tree. You can think about a planet. So you can think about a house. You can think about a person. But try to think about consciousness. The mind gives up. The mind can only cognitively understand consciousness, but cannot think about consciousness. So if the Shastra said that you meditate on consciousness, so you will not, the mind will not be able to meditate on the formless because consciousness does not have a form. Which is why we slowly lead the mind towards the formless and then let it just remain in its true self. We cannot force the mind to think about consciousness because of the nature of the mind. So that is why we have these various forms for various deities. Like Vishnu, the real meaning is formless. So how did the formless attain a certain form? That is only for human beings to develop a connection, to form a relationship. Otherwise, I cannot worship. And then worship will lead to the formless. That is the whole idea. So here he says, Tvayi mayi cha anyatra ekaha Vishnu vyartham kupyasi mayi asahishnu. So, and then here the Guru is saying that the same consciousness is pervading me and you. Tvayi mayi, Guru is talking to the student. So you are also pervaded by the same consciousness that is pervading me. So don't unnecessarily fight with me. So why did this suddenly come up? So why is the Guru saying don't fight with me? Because when a person, the connection becomes very close. So this happens in a Gurukulam setting, environment. So it becomes very close. And then psychologically, there is something called a transference that happens from the student to the teacher. So the student may have resentment over one's father or mother. So over how they raised him or her. So may have resentment towards someone else. So when you live in a Gurukulam for a length of time, so then the mind gets relaxed. And then the mind wants to get rid of this resentment. So for getting rid of this resentment, the mind wants to find another person to superimpose and then blame that person for this resentment. That is how the mind works. So many times you will find that in a Gurukulam, some students suddenly have so much anger towards the teacher. So they transfer their resentment with their father or mother on the teacher and then start fighting with the teacher. So it's very difficult to appreciate probably for someone who's not lived in a Gurukulam, but for someone who lives in a residential setting. So the teacher must be willing to take this. So sometimes it can be very harsh also. That's why every day before we start, we chant Sahana Avatu. Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai. Tejas we know Adhitamastu, and then we say Ma Vidvishavahai. Let us not fight with each other. Why do we say this prayer every day? Because in a Gurukulam setting, it can happen. So the student transfers all the resentment that one may have had, he or she may have had on the teacher, and then start blaming the teacher. So you are in a different way. So whatever the teacher does may invoke certain anger. So the student tries to find fault. No, he should not have done this. So he should have done it differently. Why is he talking to this person like this? So why is he talking to me like this? So that is all because of one's own resentment. So that anger comes out at the teacher. So that's why here also, this verse says, Vyartham kupyasi. You are unnecessarily getting angry with me. Sometimes it can happen with other people you are very close to also. It can happen with one's spouse. The anger that the person has with one's father may be taken out on one's spouse. So anger over one's mother may be taken out on this person because this person alone is available now. No one else is available. So teacher being very compassionate and then willing to accept the student. So the way he or she is, so it's very easy to become a sitting duck for the student. So that's why he says, Vyartham kopyasi mayi asahishnu bhava samachittaha sarvatratvam. Retain your composure everywhere. Samachittaha. So don't allow this transference. So even if there is transference, just remain a witness and don't be bothered by it. I mean, don't let it take over you. So vanchasi achirad yadi vishnutvam. If you really want to become wise, you will have to do this. So if you want to know the reality of who you are, you will have to remain composed, including the teacher, with everything, including the teacher. So we'll stop here and continue. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो हरि ओम।